So, I ordered some custom Artimage hats for when I do things like conventions and stuff like that, but as you can see, it's not really a good fit and the logo sits way too high up. It feels almost like wearing a yarmulke. There is not a good spot for it. So it'll do for the short term, but if anyone knows a good place to replace these at, preferably local to Hamilton, please let me know in the comments below. I'd really like to get something better than these. Hello everyone, my name of course is Artimage and welcome to day 4 of VEDA, Vlog Everyday April, where today, as I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to be talking about my foray into miniatures games, talking about first WarHammer 40,000. Now much like Dungeons & Dragons with Wizards of the Coast, WarHammer 40,000 and Warhammer Fantasy Battles by Games Workshop is the miniatures game that most people learn of first. Now when I learned of it, I only learned of Warhammer 40k. I had not learned about the fantasy battles until way later. And it's strange with the way that Games Workshop started out first as a manufacturer of these fantasy miniatures, and their whole goal was, at the time, we're a miniatures company that just so happens to produce a game. And at the time, that was totally plausible. The miniatures were generic fantasy miniatures enough that you could use just about anything in some other fantasy environment. Not everything was going to fit, but obviously you weren't supposed to be buying everything. Now with Warhammer 40,000, they kept that same attitude of we're a miniatures company that happens to produce a game. But lots of things will kind of reveal that otherwise, as well as a good portion of the miniatures in that line don't really have anywhere else they can be used. Certainly some can be, such as the Imperial Guard as more contemporary humans, Tau as a high-tech alien species, and the Tyranids as a basic insectoid kind of threat. Overall though, your 40k miniatures are primarily your 40k miniatures. That's enough about the company for now. Let's talk about my experience with the game. I got my first opportunity to learn about and play Warhammer 40,000 at TorCon 3 back in 2003. This guy, who was a friend of my girlfriend at the time, was an outrider for Games Workshop, which is much like the War Course for Infinity, where they go out and provide demos and information about the game and the company. So the convention was wrapping up. We had finally gotten a chance to go to the gaming room and get a look at what was going on. Now he had just wrapped up a demo but was ready to swing right back into another, which is great to see in these demo people. Now the forces he had on the table at the time were two 1500 point armies, one of Eldar, which is the faction that I wound up playing both in the demo and as my primary as a 40k player, and Sisters of Battle, which my girlfriend at the time wound up playing. I don't remember how we came to choose our armies. I think I just found the concept of the Eldar the most impressive, because the Sisters of Battle were basically superhuman women, and the Eldar were space elves, and so that was more of a draw to me. The game was very engaging, very fun. The fact that you were still doing something, even if it was mostly passive on your opponent's turn, really kept me engaged and really made me feel like the game mattered at all points. I managed to come up around the outsides and dominate around there. She cut straight down the middle and took out a sizable force of Guardians and my Farseer, so I didn't even get to use my psychic powers yet. And then we had to call the game because we got told by the convention center staff they were closing down. Now I wouldn't get a chance to properly explore this game until 8 years later in 2011, when Black Knight Games ran one of their first Call to Arms events, where you invest a little bit of money, get a deal, and you build up an army worth X points. I think this one was 1250, don't quote me on that, maybe only 1200. And then you have 2 months to get them all built, painted, and based, and I didn't base mine because I didn't know that was actually a standard, and I don't like the way basing works, and that, oh cool, we have this patch of grass that follows us to this rocky, desolate, arid area, or this snowfield, or this desert. Now, upon investing myself in 2011, I wound up going Eldar just because I really had a lot of fun with them during my demo event. After that Call to Arms, I looked more into the game and the armies that were available, and I got to a point where I decided I wanted a little bit of everything. Not to have the complete line, just I wanted the things that I found interesting from each army. So I started buying up models that I thought were cool for their rules and their look and things like that, painting up some of them, others sitting for later projects. My Eldar continued to see expansion. And I do have to say, it's thanks to 40k that I got started with airbrushing because I was running Eldar, meaning you're primarily running Mechdar, which is a lot of vehicles, and an airbrush obviously speeds that up immensely. I got in at the tail end of 5th edition, and so when 6th edition was introduced, I was excited because they were talking about throwing away what was established as rules, which they didn't wind up doing. And I thought, you know, this could be a real opportunity to see rebalance for the game. And it looked like that's really where things were going when they updated the Tau Empire Codex, because Tau used to be laughable, and now they were not strong, but they were holding their own. And I was glad to see that. So when I heard about my codex being updated for the Eldar, I was elated. Boy, was I disappointed. We got a few new characters, but none of our profiles really changed or saw updates or rebalancing or anything. And then to top it off, there was a real kick to the jump. Before the 6th edition codex update, you could buy a box of 10 Dire Avengers, which is 1 Exarch, which is basically your sergeant, and 9 other guys, for about $40 Canadian. The 6th edition update comes around. They change the look of the packaging. They don't change any of the sculpts or anything. But now you have 5 troops, including 1 Exarch. And with the game being made a WYSIWYG system, where you have to be visually representing exactly what you have on the table, that means if you want to field 1 unit of 10 Dire Avengers, you need to buy 3 boxes. So that was the first real case of me starting to think, I don't know if I can keep sticking with this game if this is how they're treating us. Like, I expected price increases just because of material cost of living increases, the usual things. I was not expecting the price to literally double. The final nail in the coffin for me came with the announcement of 7th edition. It was less than a full year after 6th edition's release that they announced they were working on 7th edition. So it became very clear to me that the company's attitude of, we're a miniatures company that happens to produce a game, wasn't really something that they were standing by. I mean, the game had no real balance going into it, but you kind of expected that after really having a decent look at the game. Where obviously your Imperial armies, being the Space Marines, to a lesser extent the Imperial Guard, things like that, they were all strong factions. Whereas things like the Tau, the Eldar, the Necrons, they got left behind, and while some were stronger than others, you were really looking at the Adeptus Astartes factions. Another thing that bugged me slightly about the game was the community. I'm afraid the only word that I really have to describe it overall is horrible. Now, there are absolutely outliers to this, and so there are some people out there who are very much 40k devotees who really want you to enjoy your experience playing with/against them, who want to help you understand the game better, who want to talk through things with you as you're doing them and after everything's been done, so you get a better understanding and brought into the game more easily. You people out there doing that for any miniatures game, I don't care if it's Warhammer or 40k or Age of Sigmar, I don't care if it's War Machine or Hordes, I don't care if it's Malifaux, Infinity, or something else I have forgotten. You people make these games possible and fun. Keep doing what you're doing, keep encouraging others to do the same. Unfortunately, what you get a lot in the Warhammer 40k community, in my experience, has been people who want to club the baby seals. They don't want the challenge. They don't want the hard-fought games. They don't want the people who actually pose a threat. They want to put their models down, have you put your models down, and then pick them right back up off the table. 40k really seems to thrive on power gamers, and typically power gamers aren't people looking at mastering the game, but more so exploiting it. With that, I have been getting drastically out of 40k. I've sold off the bulk of my collection. I still have some vanilla Space Marines, some Space Wolves, and some Tau left. So if anyone in Hamilton is looking for those, I'm willing to sell them as a or several lots. So certainly hit me up. You can do so on my social media or the comments down below. Just think about my hat, please. So that brings me to the end of my experience with Warhammer 40,000. What about you? Are you a 40k player? Are you a 40k fan? Does the grimdark world hold interest to you? Did something lose you in it like it did me? What were those things? Is there something you miss about the game or that other games don't offer that keep you going with it? Let me know down below, just like everything else. So that's the end of my discussion about my experience with 40k. Now tomorrow, I think that we're gonna stick with the changing flavors, and we're gonna talk about the video game series that first really brought me into video games. What game series is that? You'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out. Until then, everyone, take care of yourselves and each other, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Do you want to be on today's video as well? Yes, you do. Hi. Kisses today. I love you.